What's up, y'all? This is John and Mike back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. You can always find us on Millions and as a part of the Fans First Sports Network. Tonight, we are going to preview the 2024 NCAA baseball tournament with the host of SEC Unfiltered and one of our favorite guests, Chris Phillips. Um, we do want to talk about the Blade and Bull thing we did this past weekend on Sunday. Shout out to those guys for inviting us out to record. The episode did not get posted because the audio, you couldn't really hear it, if I'm being entirely honest. I tried. If you heard it live, I was told that you could hear us. But the video and the audio just didn't work out right, so we weren't able to post that. But we will be redoing that episode and posting it this weekend or next week. We hadn't really figured out the timing of it. But no, the guys out at Blade and Bull were super awesome. Southbound Brewing gave us some beer while we were there.
Delicious.
Oh, it was. That Mountain Jam is phenomenal.
It's my mountain jam, for real.
But they also, as we were walking out, gave us glasses. So I need to get you yours.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it was really cool. We're gonna try and do it again and figure out the audio issues. I think it's my fault, if I'm being entirely honest with you, which I try to be every time I can. Yeah, no, I think it's my fault, but we'll get it figured out. And we had a good time recording that episode, so we're not gonna have a problem doing it again.
I'm
We
just,
just may
I'm the
have
one thing,
to
the
go ahead.
disappointed with it is, the one thing I'm disappointed with it is, that your mother-in-law was not going to have her part in the new one. So that stinks.
You know what? We can always call her mid episode.
There you go.
She'll answer. She told me she would.
We might have to do it.
We might. We might. Um, but yeah, no. So thanks everybody coming out. Thanks to Blade and Bull for having us out. Thanks to Southbound for the beer and the glasses. It was a good time. And honestly, we're not a partner of theirs. We're not sponsored by them or anything. But if you're going to Savannah and want to go throw some axes, do something like that, they've got an awesome setup out there. All of their stuff. I mean, everybody that we had throw axes, and I think there were a total of like 8 or 9 of us by the time between Wednesday and Sunday. Everybody got them to stick, so they can teach you how to do it if you can't already do it. And it's literally attached to a brewery.
Yeah, you can't ask for anything more.
You really can't. But it's a great
Like
time.
date night and date with the boys, like whatever, man. It's perfect for every occasion.
Yeah, I mean, for my brother-in-law's bachelor party, we went axe throwing in Athens for part of it.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so always a good time. And he'll be never mind. I'm not gonna say that. But lost my train of thought. Damn it. Oh, what'd you do on Monday? Memorial Day was this weekend.
I didn't, you know what? We really didn't do a whole lot. We just took uh took an edible and then we went to the pool.
Hell yeah. Sounds like a good
It
day.
was super relaxing for the most part. And I changed my tattoo appointment. Instead of going at the end of June, I'm gonna go on this Saturday. So I'm gonna get a rest of my leg sleeve done.
My face is on it, right?
Oh, naturally, yeah. I got like a baby picture of you.
Oh, even better. I was a cute baby. I don't know what the hell happened. Um, no, dude, I got a friend that was deployed to Eastern Europe
Mhm.
and he got back last week. So he wanted to hang out and go to the beach, and we went to the beach for a long time and then went out to dinner and had a good time with him. Um, but
Was it hard to get, to the island itself? Because we had thought about going like
Monday it was not.
okay, because like Sunday was crazy because we were gonna go there instead and then come, to the Blade and Bull place, but then we got like an alert saying it was gonna take us like an hour and a half to get to Tybee from our house, and we said never mind.
Yeah, no, I was also going to go to Tybee on Sunday before Blade and Bull. And then as I was about to leave the house, I pulled up Google Maps traffic and it said 45 minutes. And I was like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, yeah, forget that.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
sir.
Going on? How y'all doing?
Doing
Good,
all
man.
right.
How's it
How
going?
are you?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well. Just hanging out. I mean, I say that it's been a busy ass week, man. Just previewing all these regionals and making picks, and going back over the weekend of the SEC baseball tournament. It's been a lot, but it's been fun, man. We're having a blast. So it's things are going well. Things are going. How are y'all doing?
Could always be better. Could always be worse. No, we're just
Hey, man,
we're
it's summer for me. I'm not doing anything but this podcast for the next like 7 weeks, so I'm good.
Love that. I love that. Dude, funny story. So I actually emailed one of the guys with UGA and was trying to get credentials for the weekend. That may happen still. I don't know yet, but we just SEC Unfiltered. We just got approved for credentials for the Clemson regional. So
Sweet.
kind
there
of
you go.
life comes full circle moment for yours truly. It's like you told somebody that a year ago. I'm going to Clemson for postseason baseball, but yeah, I think I'm gonna go to Clemson and watch Vandy. And I've got my guy Harrison that does my college baseball stuff with me. He lives in Atlanta, so I think he knows. He's been to a good bit of Georgia games this year. I think he's actually a Tech fan, like deep down, but he's not. He's just a baseball guy. You know what I mean? So,
Yep.
Yeah.
um, I don't know. We'll see, but I've got the credentials to Clemson, so may probably going to be sliding over there, which will be kind of funny. But yeah, man, I'm super pumped for the weekend. So super pumped.
Okay. So along the lines of that, I need
Mhm.
to get with you not recording to ask a few
Mhm.
questions.
Yeah, yeah, man. Anything.
Okay. Um, along those lines, because anyways,
Hey, I got you.
um,
I'll
SEC.
I'll
Go
say
ahead.
this to you. Well, I'll just say this to you, by the way, man. So I got approved for credentials for that Clemson regional.
Hmm.
I've now been approved for credentials more times for a Clemson sporting event than I ever was for a South Carolina sporting event, and that's
Really
one time. I never
Wow.
got approved for anything for South Carolina ever in my entire career. So
Hmm.
interesting.
Yeah, right. Are you? This has nothing to do with baseball, but are you going to the SEC media days out in Dallas?
we have applied for it. The plan is to go. I'm just waiting on the approval, which
Mhm.
I feel confident that we will get. But that's the plan, man. The plan is
Yeah.
to go. So yeah, I was out there in Nashville last year. So obviously as as the Spurs Up show, but I actually reached out to the associate director of communications with the SEC, and they responded to us. I feel confident that we will be approved, but just kind of waiting on that. So yeah,
Mhm.
Okay.
Sweet.
but
Another
but yeah,
question I have.
when you're asking about me, like about I don't know if your question was going to be about getting credentials and everything.
No,
You
that's
know,
not it.
I got to fight the battle as hard as anybody, man. I just tell people when you're an independent entity, you've got to you got to do kind of 10x what the other entities do because you're just kind of earning your way, you know what I mean, to a degree, if that makes sense. So, and it's such like a good old boy system, like buddy buddy system, where it's like, the SEC really believes in a legacy media, if you will. So, anyways, we'll see what. But I expect us to be in Dallas, yeah, and so we're excited to go to the Clemson regional and hopefully maybe Athens as well.
So moving into regional talk, the SEC earned 11 bids in the tournament, which is a new record. How many of those teams do you think have an actual shot?
An actual shot to get to Omaha, an actual shot to win it all. What are we talking?
We'll say just get to Omaha.
An actual shot to get to Omaha. I think a lot of that too. You have to look at what's ahead of them and the matchups and who they match up with in the. Sorry about that, guys. In
Are you
the
good?
supers, I got my handy dandy bracket right here, right, to keep up with it all. Paper pop. I mean, I think all of your national seeds have a realistic shot. Tennessee, Texas A&M, Arkansas, Kentucky, and Georgia. I think those all have a realistic shot. Admittedly, guys, Georgia would probably be the one I'm most concerned about just from the pitching standpoint. Like if they pitch well, they can swing it as good as anybody. It's just will the arm show up consistently? Because typically what wins, in the postseason is elite pitching. Now, I do like, because they are matched up, if I recall correctly, with the Raleigh regional, correct? So they'll play the winner of that Raleigh regional. So I think that's a pretty decent draw. And I think Georgia too, their regional draw is very manageable, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a bit. So
Hmm.
I think Georgia certainly can go. I think LSU can go. The only ones, guys, that I'm really skeptical about, I would say South Carolina, Alabama, Florida. I'm very, very virtually out on. Um, you know, I am picking Vandy to win the Clemson Regional, although I don't know that I'd put them as like a favorite to go to Omaha. So, guys, I think we're going to have half the field in Omaha as SEC teams. So I think we're going to have four. Which four those are, we will see. But I think the SEC is going to be very well represented. So, I mean, listen, all 11 of them, if they get hot, they're capable. Realistically, I
Yeah.
think we're looking at a window of about 6 or 7 teams that have a real shot.
I mean, hell, like 2 years, or well, I guess in 2022, you had Ole Miss go from, last team
Yeah.
in to actually winning it. So, I mean, baseball
I
is a weird
mean,
sport. Anything can happen.
you can virtually equate that to if Florida got hot and went on a run and won the whole thing. Because dude, Ole Miss
Hmm.
was the last team that got in, and I mean,
Yeah.
not even Florida was last four in, but I would imagine like them or Alabama was the last SEC team that got in. So I mean, it'd be like one of those two, just to put it in perspective. It'd be like one of those two catching fire and winning it all. So I don't I don't think that's going to happen this year. I think the very obvious choice of the non-SEC hosts, who would I bank on most to get hot and make a run? It's LSU. I mean, in the Chapel Hill regional, that one's really tough. North Carolina's really good, but like what we saw in Hoover, and I always say this, guys, and I think you can apply this to the Athens regional. You'd rather play the overachieving mid-major than the underachieving Power Five, right? In your like as a 2 or a 3 seed, right? So I'd rather get UNC Wilmington as a 2 seed than get LSU as a 2 seed. You know what I
Oh,
mean? So
yeah.
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
due
Yeah.
re- all due respect to Wilmington, but like I'd much rather have that, because the thing with LSU that's so scary, guys. I mean, they were a top 5 team preseason for a reason. Like they've got talent. They've got all the talent. Where if it all clicked, and we've seen it click over the last like month or two, they can make a run. So that would probably be the SEC team that's not hosting that I would give the best shot to do that.
So
John, I'm not sure where we're at. Yeah.
do what?
So I'm not sure where we're at. I gotta
Okay.
close that.
No, I was just putting another nicotine pouch in here. Um, so this was an interesting season in the SEC with multiple top seeds losing their spot with series in league play. LSU and South Carolina surging in the tournament. What made this season so different? Is it transfer portal, NIL, something else?
I think it's a mixture of the things you mentioned. I think that, and I think it's a really, guys, the SEC tournament especially, it's a convenient cop out that we present where when the top teams lose, well, nobody cares. You know what I mean? These teams have their seeds locked up. And it's really easy to say that. And I'm not going to sit here and say that like the pitching decisions are a lot different than if it was a do or die, like what we're going to see this weekend or the Supers or moving forward. So the pitching decisions are a lot different, guys. But when you watch those games, does anybody look at that and say, well, that team doesn't want to win? I always find that really comical. It's like once you step in between those white lines, all that chatter's gone, right? So, I think I will say I think teams like LSU, like South Carolina, the reason they surge, I do think when you're coming in there desperate and you have to play with your hair on fire, I think that makes a difference to a degree. I also think, guys, that I think some teams just peak at different times, or I think some teams get hot at different times, and we see that a lot, man. Again, you're also, you're not getting every team's best in game one or game two or what have you, and also to the talent's just better, like you mentioned. The transfer portal and these rosters, as good as they are, and the game has never been better. You know what I mean? So I think that has a lot to do with it. You look at Mississippi State too, man. They were a really quality team all year long, and I think also, guys, the teams that we saw that went on runs. You need your pitching to step up because it's about pitching depth, and I think we saw a couple teams do that. So, guys, I don't know that there's one specific thing you point to, or there's some secret formula or some secret sauce, but the SEC tournament was a blast. This is one of the best SEC tournaments I can remember, and certainly the runs of LSU, South Carolina, Mississippi State were a large reason for that. And again, for the big boys, I don't know that you're not going to negatively look at Texas A&M or Arkansas or Kentucky, and these others, these top teams in the SEC because they didn't have a good showing in Hoover. But there's something to be said about gaining some momentum going into the postseason.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I mean, it was even during the season. It seemed like the number one seed in the SEC, it just rotated through every week because you'd
Mhm.
have Arkansas lose a series and Texas A&M win, and then Texas A&M lose, and then Kentucky win and Kentucky lose, and it
The
was
depth of
just
the league, the depth of the league is unlike anything we've ever seen. I mean, really, truly, guys, it's John. It year after year gets better and better and better, and it's not lip service, right? Like we talk about how great SEC football is and SEC basketball is coming along, but dude, SEC baseball is a different level. I mean, it really, truly is a different level, right? When you talk about the overall depth of the league, and there are no weekends off, or we saw Florida get swept by Missouri. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I mean, I just think that, to your point, with the transfer portal, teams are able to plug their holes really effectively. NIL, obviously, they're able to get those guys through the portal. And there's so many great historical programs in the SEC as well that, you can count on them year after year. We have so many great coaches. I mean, it's just the level of competition, guys, is unlike it's ever been. And again, the depth of the league, that's really what shows itself week after week. So to your point, John, I mean, I think that's why, we had so much shuffling, especially in the West. That's also what made Kentucky's run so impressive. And I know that they were co-SEC champions, and I would say that you probably give Tennessee the nod because they literally won the series against Kentucky. I don't know why the SEC does it that way, where it's the co-champions or whatever. But either way, like the run Kentucky went on, and really the run Tennessee went on too, where they lost one series and then won 9 in a row. That really speaks to how special they were as a ball club. So it's so much fun to watch, man, because you just really never know week after week in the SEC.
So we think that a lot of Georgia fans don't have a great appreciation for what Charlie Condon's done this year. Can you put it in a big picture perspective, like what he's accomplished this season, like and just his career in general?
Yeah, I mean he's undoubtedly one of the best hitters we've ever seen in SEC history. I mean it's I think back to some of the great sluggers that have come through the league. One that comes to mind for me is Justin Smoke, and you think about the bats those guys were swinging to and how much different that dynamic was,
Yeah.
and what they were hitting with. I mean, for Charlie Condon to do what he did this year in the BB core era, and pitchers have never been better. They've never thrown harder, even at the college level. I mean, he was spectacular, guys. I mean, he was. I don't know, and I know power in college baseball and baseball in general. Like I say, well, I don't know when we're going to see another Charlie Condon. I mean, I'm sure somebody's going to come along, but like, I don't know if we've ever seen a player, guys, like not only have such a great season, but like build his draft stock up the way he did. I mean, Charlie Condon went from being a guy that I didn't hear much about before the season in regards to MLB draft to being like he's the number one overall pick. So the way that Charlie Condon's stock rose from season's beginning to season's end, I've never seen something like that personally. And I mean, the guy became, you knew he was good as a freshman, right? And we saw some other guys that were good as freshmen teeter off this year in the SEC, have solid seasons, but not great. For Charlie Condon to follow up what he did and put together this campaign, I think you really have to appreciate it, guys, as simply, I think we are witnessing the greatest hitter in Georgia history. I mean, I think he's the greatest slugger to ever wear the red and black. I don't think that's an overstatement right there. So, when you really take that in perspective, and I think we have a bad habit as human beings to, we don't appreciate greatness in the moment. It has to leave us before we look back and say, man, wasn't that an awesome thing? Like, you're a dog fan, you're obviously listening to this, but if you're going to be at the regional this weekend, even if you're not, when you're watching the games, like, yeah, really take a moment to your point, Michael, and sit back and appreciate the greatness that you're witnessing. Because I mean, who knows before we see a next Charlie Condon, not just at Georgia, but in the SEC.
Right.
and I mean, for me, one of the things that just emphasizes what he was able to do is that even on the defensive side of the ball, he started games in 5 different positions.
Yeah,
Like it,
I mean,
not a
do it
one
all.
trick pony, not a designated hitter. Like he started games in 5 positions and
Yeah,
did what he
do it all.
did.
I mean, he's dude. Charlie Condon. Here's the thing, though. I may have given him a little bit of disservice because he's not just a hitter. He's a baseball player. You know what I mean? Charlie Condon's a baseball player. Just a do it all, 5 tools baseball player. You know what I mean? And it's going to make him a lot of money at the next level. But to your point, man, he plays great defense too, and just does everything that Georgia asked him to do. And he's been such a, I think what's cool, guys, he's been such a big part of this resurgence of Georgia baseball, under Wes Johnson. I mean, he grinded through last year, the 11-19 conference record, and his numbers were great, but it's tough. It's tough as a guy to stay positive and keep going, and he did. And I think he's reaping the rewards this year, and it couldn't happen to a better guy. So to your point, he's not just a hitter, man. He's a well-rounded baseball player.
And what Corey Collins did this year would have made a ton of headlines if he wasn't hitting in front of Charlie Condon. Like,
I think it's the best on-base percentage in the country, if I
I was
do
about
recall.
to say, you're overshadowing the best on-base percentage in the country because it seems like every time you swing the bat, you're breaking another record.
Yeah, I mean that Georgia lineup. That's the thing. Corey Collins, Slate Alford's another one that doesn't get enough pub and enough respect, enough attention. I mean those guys have been electric around him. I mean that's one of the biggest reasons that I think Georgia offensively has had success. It takes more than one guy, right? I mean you can pitch around one guy. You can't pitch around a whole lineup and top to bottom. Georgia's been really good, guys, and that's what really has led to this point being a seven overall national seed. And it's like we talked about earlier. If they can pitch, they got as good a chance as anybody to get to Omaha, and who knows at that point, right? But I mean, with that lineup, there is scary to face as anyone in college baseball. And again, it goes so far beyond Charlie Condon. I think those that haven't realized that, guys, I think they're going to learn that starting this weekend.
Yeah.
So this isn't in the list, but what? Trying to think of how to phrase this. How do you think Wes Johnson was able to turn this team around so quickly?
Sometimes all it takes is the right guy, man. Number one. I mean, I think changing the culture can happen overnight. As much as we want to, tell ourselves these stories that you need 3, 4, 5 years to have some massive rebuild. I think that, Georgia, listen, Georgia had the talent, the lineup. They did. They had it last year. They swung the stick really well. Pitching was a big problem. And I think Wes Johnson, too, his pitching prowess. And guys, I was a pitcher in college, and I can tell you this, having the right voice and the right guidance when it comes to your pitching coach, your head coach, like that makes a big difference. I mean, there are guys that can completely switch up their game because it's a different voice, it's a different philosophy, it's different teachings, they're working with you different mechanically, mentally. I mean, baseball's such a mental game, guys. Like you don't go to Georgia unless you're talented, right? You have talent, so much of the game is mental. So I would imagine, I'm not there behind closed doors, I haven't been in the building, but I'd imagine there was a massive culture shift somewhere in there for Georgia. There was a massive culture shift within the building, within the players, within the belief system, with how they were doing things and how they were operating. Now, did anybody see this coming? Being a 7 overall national seed, did I see it coming? Did anybody at Georgia see it coming? I don't think so. I certainly didn't. I did not. I thought, guys, I remember saying before the season, and I think we talked about this. I said that if Georgia can make the postseason, it's a successful year one for Wes Johnson. So being a top 8 national seed, I don't think in my wildest dreams I ever thought that was possible. But I mean, again, it's just testament to that. This is a ball club that I think they had even more offensive firepower and more offensive pop than we even realized. And guys, nobody could have predicted Charlie Condon to do what he's done. I mean, it's one thing to predict a standout season, but I mean, hitting over 400, hitting over 30 bombs, I don't think anybody saw that coming, right? So when you have a guy like that who has an all-everything season, I think Wes Johnson's impact on the pitching staff, while it's been a struggle, I think you felt it. And then again, that culture shift, guys, like I mentioned, I think that's been the recipe. And credit to Georgia, man. They've done a great job. Everybody's bought in, I think, to what Wes Johnson is preaching, and it's paid off huge dividends.
For sure. So, kind of sticking with Georgia here, what percentage chance do you give Georgia to get to Omaha?
Well, like I mentioned, guys, I mean, and I'll tell you, just to spoil it, I am picking Georgia to advance out of the regional. I think Georgia got one of the more favorable draws, right? It's not an easy draw. There's no such thing as that, right? And baseball's crazy. I mean, you never know. But UNC Wilmington is the 2, Georgia Tech is the 3, and who is the 4 again?
West Point.
Army.
Right, Army. That's right. My apologies. So yeah, Army is the 4. So I think UNC Wilmington's a really, really good program. I'm surprised it's been as long as it's been since they've been in the postseason, but Wilmington is a really solid program. I could see them, being a tough out, if you will. But I mean, I don't think they're on the level of Georgia. And then, guys, we saw Georgia Tech a couple months ago, and Georgia spanked them to a point where Georgia Tech did everything they could to get out of the third game and have it not count. Like, let us not forget that. So, I know it's been a couple months, and Georgia Tech could be different, but again, we've seen this game before. Like, we've seen this play out on the field, and so Georgia, if they do get Georgia Tech in that Saturday night game, which would be electric, how much confidence are the Dogs rolling in with? I mean, they know like this is the team we crapped on a couple months ago, and they're scared of us. That's basically the attitude I'd be taking. So I think Georgia got a really favorable draw. Right, they don't have a Duke as a 2 seed in their regional. They don't have the caliber of an LSU. They don't have anybody like that per se. They don't have a Louisiana, right? Like there's some other regionals out there. I think it's much difficult for the 1 seeds. And then in the supers, like I mentioned, guys, you match up with the Raleigh regional, and I think you're probably either going to be playing NC State or South Carolina. That one, you've already beaten South Carolina like a drum, and NC State has been wildly consistent. And guys, you're going to get them at Foley Field. So I would give Georgia, I don't want to go too high here because it is baseball. It's unpredictable. But I'm going to give Georgia a 65% chance to get to Omaha. I think it's more than a coin flip. I really like. I think if Georgia, and here's the thing, guys. I mean, we should be probably talking about too. They punched their ticket to the Supers. It'll be the first time since 2008 that Georgia has been to the Super Regional. So that right there alone is going to be a huge accomplishment. But I'll tell you guys, I think if Georgia doesn't get to Omaha, the reason I don't give them more of a chance is because I really do. I'm nervous about the pitching staff.
We are too.
Yeah. If they don't get to Omaha, guys, I think we're going to look at it and say, man, like Georgia, great year for Wes Johnson, no matter what. But maybe they kind of missed a window here to get to the College World Series because, guys, so much of like when we predict in the preseason who's going to make Omaha, well, we don't know what the matchups are going to be. You know what I mean? Like, do the best 8 teams get to Omaha every year? No. It's about who's a really good ball club, but also who's got a favorable path. Let's not like pretend like that's not important. So I think Georgia's got as manageable a path as anyone. I'm not saying that playing South Carolina or NC State would be easy, but again, you take care of your business. You're getting them at Foley Field. And Foley Field, I know it's not revered as one of the most hostile environments in the SEC, but Foley will be rocking, right? I've talked to some folks speak about that atmosphere and kind of asked them what that'll be like. And they're like, for as small as Foley is, it can get a lot more raucous than people realize. So, I love Georgia at home. The ball is going to be flying. They love hitting there, obviously. And so, yeah, I'd say 65%, guys. I think it's more than a coin flip that Georgia can make it to Omaha.
So with the Georgia Tech situation that we kind of hinted at a minute ago, do you think the NCAA wanted that rivalry in the regional, or do you think it was just a geographic selection?
Oh, I don't believe in coincidences, man. I don't believe in coincidences like this, John. I mean, I say the same thing about Texas going to College Station. I mean, listen, it is geographical, and it does make sense. I'm really surprised the committee didn't put South Carolina in Clemson's regional, right? Like, let's just have all this rivalry flavor in the postseason.
Right. That would have been awesome.
So, yeah, it would have been. So, again, it is geographical to a degree, but, yeah, I think getting clean old-fashioned hate in the regional, I think, is something that, they couldn't resist. I don't know where else you would have sent Georgia Tech, and I just think it kind of made sense, obviously, for this. So, I love it. That was something that obviously jumped out immediately when I saw that. And again, like I mentioned, guys, I think if you're Georgia, you got to feel really, really confident. I would say the thing with Tech is you have Drew Burris coming in, and he's right up there with Charlie Condon in regards to guys that can really swing the heck out of it. And the ball's going to be flying out of Foley, so maybe that gives you a shot. But man, if I'm Georgia, I'm I don't care who we're playing in game 2 on Saturday night, but if it's Georgia Tech, I mean, let's do it again. Come on, line up. I'm looking at it. Let's line up and finish game 3. We'll finish what we started right here in the postseason. So
yeah,
I think that would be a really, really fun game and a fun storyline and a lot of intensity. I know Georgia Tech on the football field's not. I don't know, man. I don't consider it much of a rivalry. I know it's technically clean old-fashioned hate, but one side has to win sometimes for it to be a rivalry of sorts. But I think in baseball, there's enough there to where that the intensity of that game would be felt on Saturday night. But yeah, certainly. Again, I don't believe in coincidences, guys. I think that it was geographically it made sense, but also it made sense for the clean old fashioned hate aspect of the Athens regional.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest question: will Georgia Tech just quit this game and refuse to let it be a forfeit again?
Is it going to rain?
I, Georgia Tech's the one that demanded they play the game in the rain, and then they quit. They
Yeah,
quit.
I thought that was I thought, John, I thought that was a coward move. I mean, I think everybody did, but I thought that was a coward move. And then you don't resume the game. Travesty. I mean, it's just a travesty. It's the a rivalry series deserves better. I mean, South Carolina Clemson did the same thing. They didn't play game 3. South Carolina lost the first 2 games. They didn't play game 3. Come on, man. Like, just finish what you started. Like, reschedule the
Sometimes you
game.
got to take your medicine.
There's just no excuse to not play the games. I mean, dude, we play a 60 game season. Like, the season starts mid-February and goes until, middle of May practically. There's time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Well, in Georgia, I don't know if you read this. Georgia and sent Georgia Tech 8 dates, and Georgia Tech said none of the 8 would work.
I did not know that. That's yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
well, I mean, here's the thing, unless they want to throw their game 1, they can't avoid what's coming on Saturday.
I was
So
about to say the 9th date is the trick.
There you go.
that would be I don't know what would be funnier or what Georgia fans would find more satisfaction in is playing them in game 2 and beating them, or Tech going 2 in Q and Georgia never seeing them.
I think if they got run ruled in the first game, that would be almost as good as Georgia beating them.
Yeah.
They might. Well, I mean, Wilmington is a solid club for sure. So they're going to have their hands full with that one.
I
Yeah.
would be cheering for whatever their mascot is.
They are
Wilmington mascot.
UNC Wilmington, I believe, the Seahawks.
Okay, let's go Seahawks.
They are the. Well, hold on. I'm going to tell you real quick. Yeah. So get this. Their mascot's name. They are the UNCW Seahawks. Excuse me. Their mascot's name is Sammy Seahawk. Sammy, middle initial C with a period, Hawk. Sammy.
Oh,
Seahawk.
like Chuck E. Cheese. Oh
Yes,
yeah.
Sammy Seahawk. So that's a fun fact for all the audience out there. Sammy Seahawk.
Cousin to Chuck E. Cheese, I would
Yeah.
say.
Hey, you can I don't know if you're going to the regional or not, but you can tell all your Georgia buddies, you can text them later and be like, did you know that UNCW's mascot, Sammy Seahawk?
Same. All right. So let's get to some national stuff. So if you had to put money on a non-SEC SEC team to win it all, who would it be?
Ooh, non-SEC team to win it all. That's a great question. You know what's interesting, guys? Like, I'm going to fill out this bracket, by the way, full, but we're predicting stuff round by round and over at SEC Unfiltered. So, like, I'm going to fill out a bracket, but I'm also not getting ahead of myself. So it's kind of a mixed bag, if you will. The non-SEC team that I would bet on, I would go. This is a good one. That's a really good question because it feels over. I mean, there's 11 SEC teams in, so if it's not an SEC team, I mean, I think Oregon State's a good bet. I'll kind of
Yeah.
go off I'll go off the wall with you guys. Wake Forest
Ooh.
with Chase Burns. I think if Wake, they're kind of like an LSU where if they get hot, they have the top end talent to get it done. That would be my long. And you know what? Maybe I say that, guys, because here's another fun fact for everybody. I placed 4 or 5, I think 4 futures bets before the season started on different teams to win the College World Series. I'll tell you who I took. I took LSU. That one's kind of on life support. I took Florida. That ain't hitting. I took Arkansas, maybe.
Yeah.
I took Wake Forest, admittedly. And then I took Texas. And of all those, I'd love to see Texas going to run, guys, selfishly, because that bet was like $25 to win like $750 because they're like plus 2,500 to win it. But I think Wake Forest, I think they got the top end. I think Oregon State too is another one. I mean, that one, that one is kind of a no-brainer. Beavers are 42-14. I think their path is pretty solid. They've got Nichols, UC Irvine, and Tulane in their regional. They match up with the Kentucky regional. So I think the likelihood that Oregon State gets to Omaha is pretty high. I've actually got Indiana State winning Kentucky's regional. So, and Kentucky's never been to
Uh,
Omaha. So that'll be yeah, I'm sure Cats fans will love to hear that. But I think Oregon State could get there and they could win it all. But I tell you this, guys, you give me SEC or the field right now, I'd go SEC. I just think there's too many good SEC teams. The best baseball is played in the Southeastern Conference. I just don't see any way that an SEC team doesn't win it all.
It seemed like for weeks, Wake Forest was projected to be in the Georgia regional, and I was highly concerned.
Yeah.
I want to say I read an
That's a,
article on
yeah,
Sunday that had Wake in the Athens regional, and I was like, damn it.
yeah,
Why can they not get something easier?
that's as brutal a 2 seed, guys, as you're going to find. And poor East
yeah.
Carolina, who I love Cliff Godwin, love what he's done with the ECU program. They're trying to get to Omaha for the first time ever, and they have Wake Forest in their regional. So, I think the committee guys, like you mentioned, you asked, like, was this on purpose? Is this? I don't think they do anything by accident or by happenstance or by coincidence. Wake Forest, that ECU regional matching up with the Tennessee regional. I mean, come on. Like, you telling me they don't want to get Tennessee, Wake Forest, and Rocky Top? Chase Burns pitching against his former team in Knoxville. I mean,
Yeah.
that's storylines galore. So, yeah, I would say Georgia should be very thankful they didn't get Wake as a 2 seed.
So, which regional is going to be the toughest for the host team to get out of?
That's a good question. From a competitiveness standpoint, the one that really jumped out to me, guys, the one that really jumped out to me was the College Station regional. And I think that one, that one and the Clemson regional, I think is going to be tough for Clemson. Vandy is a 2, Coastal's a 3, High Point is a 4. I think all 3 of those programs are really solid, especially guys, Vandy, who has been there, done that. And Clemson, here's a fun fact, hasn't been to a super regional since 2010. So there you go. And they've lost many a home regionals during that span. But yeah, guys, for Texas A&M, you got Louisiana as the 2, you got Texas as the 3. So basically, guys, you basically have 2 seeds. You got 2A and 2. Because Texas is a 3 seed is just kind of strange to me. And then Grambling is the 4 seed. So I mean, I don't think Grambling put some respect in the SWAC champions. I totally get it. But I think for Texas A&M, and I do have Texas A&M come out of this regional, but guys, I went back and forth on that. At one point, I think I had justified picking A&M, Louisiana, and Texas all at different times. I think that one's going to be wildly competitive. That one's going to be a lot of fun to watch. So I'd probably go to the College Station regional. But guys, there's a couple on here that I look at and I say to myself, for different reasons, right, that it's going to be really, really tough for the host. I mean, guys, I think Arkansas is really good, but man, you talk about the demons that are running in their minds right now and the little mental midget that's running on that wheel. Like, I mean, Arkansas fans are victims of it is truly national title or bust. Like, they get to the postseason every year, they host regionals, they go to supers, but like if they don't win it all, it's a failure. And so that level of pressure can make it really difficult as well to operate and play your best baseball. But again, guys, answer the question. I'd go with the College Station regional just because I think 1, 2, and 3 all could win it. And I'm telling you, Louisiana at the 2 seed, boy, they can pitch the heck out of it. Texas can swing the heck out of it, and A&M can do both. So that one's going to be one. That's going to be appointment TV for me for sure.
So kind of open-ended. What do you think about the field this year, just in general?
Yeah, I mean, I will say this. I want to shout out to my guy that I've had on my show before, Chad Holbrook. I really feel for him and his College of Charleston Cougars, man. I really, really feel for their ball club. Got left out of the field at 64. It didn't make sense to me. I just thought the committee really messed up there. I mean, there were a couple you could have justified. TCU, I thought it was interesting they were left out. Cal, I thought you could have justified them being in. Again, I thought Charleston not being in was nuts, really, truly. I think it goes to show the CAA is probably going to be a one bid league forever. I mean, 11 SEC teams, guys. I think that's the big takeaway. And certainly is SEC Unfiltered. I love it because it's just content galore. We got baseball to talk about forever and ever. Amen. I mean, it's going to be a fun next couple of weeks. But I think the field is really strong, guys. I mean, I think the 16 host sites, I think the game of college baseball is as strong as it's ever been. I think it's as competitive as it's ever been. And I think it's as balanced, guys. I mean, listen, I think Tennessee right now is the best team in college baseball. But I mean, there's so many teams that are capable of winning this thing. And I think what's really cool, guys, is we posted a graphic on social media on Wednesday afternoon just talking about, hey, when's the last time each SEC team won the College World Series? And what's so fascinating about this graphic, guys, is the nevers, right?
Yeah.
That have a great shot this year. Arkansas, Texas A&M, Tennessee, Kentucky. None of them have ever won the College World Series before, and they're all national seeds. So I think that's really fascinating, right? To have all these SEC teams that maybe you don't realize because they're so successful of late that they've never won the ultimate prize. And so outside of that, guys, I mean, I think too we've got a lot of really, really good two seeds. You go down the list: Southern Miss, Wake Forest, Duke. Uh, Mississippi State and Virginia's regional, I think, is going to be hell. I'm actually picking Hail State to win that one. Dallas Baptist, LSU as a 2 seed, a 40-win LSU as a 2 seed. God bless North Carolina in that one. I mean, Indiana State, who could have been hosting. UC Irvine is a really good West Coast club. South Carolina, who's dangerous. Vandy, Nebraska, Louisiana, like I mentioned, San Diego. So, I mean, it is such a deep field, guys. And again, I think that speaks to the game of college baseball. It's never been healthier. It's never been better. And I think it's going to make for a wild postseason, guys, where, each postseason, it seems like every year takes on sort of its own identity. There's some years we have pitching dominated postseason, some years hitting, some years it's a mix. I think we're going to see the offenses really take control, which bodes well for Georgia, right? I mean, the thing is in the postseason, when you need to make a big pitch, you need to make a big pitch. But I think we're going to see a lot of hitting. I think it's just the nature of college baseball, man. We're going to see, I mean, what's crazy, guys, and not to date myself, but, I'm looking at these teams and we're previewing these regionals and teams with a 4 ERA. They have like the best ERA in the country. And I don't know about y'all, but I recall back in like 2010 when we went to the College World Series and Texas led the country in ERA with a 1.89. And it's just like,
Damn.
the game's different. I mean, bro, the game is different now. And so I think we're going to continue to see that. I think it's going to be a lot of offense over the next couple of weeks, which will be a lot of fun for us all to watch.
So the last question we got, I know you're a Braves fan. Should the Braves trade for an outfielder with Acuna's injury?
Oh man, I am a Braves fan, big Braves guy. I've actually got here. I'll show this off to you since it's sitting right here. I've got this. This is on my
Yeah, there we go.
Studio. We got the AJC championship newspaper there.
I've got mine with my 95 AJC newspaper. I need to get framed and put behind me.
I got a little fake replica ring, but yeah.
Yeah. Our fun story, my sidekick for college baseball stuff, Harrison Fant, he actually worked with the Braves on the, like, I don't know if you guys recall the trophy tour where they would like take the World Series trophy to like
we went when it was
me and him went to Hilton Head.
Yeah, you probably ran into him and like interacted with him and didn't even realize it. He was like one of those guys that would like handle the World Series trophy, and very cool. I mean, very, very cool. And so he actually got me that AJC, and I took another piece of it and gave it to I framed it and gave it to another buddy of mine who's a big Braves fan. Really cool stuff. Yeah, the Acuna thing is so unfortunate, man. I mean, he's such an immense talent, and but you have that second ACL tear, man. It's like, are you going to come back? Me and my buddy were having this discussion. It's so funny. Like 2 nights ago, we're watching highlights of 2021, the Braves run, and they did all that without Ronald Acuna. And of course, he won the MVP last year. So when Ronald Acuna is at his best and he's healthy, keyword healthy, he's one of the best, if not the best player in the game. But you have to start asking yourself, the best ability is availability. And so at the end of the day, guys, it's weird to think about Ronald Acuna not being in a Braves uniform, but it's a business, man. It's a business. And if the Braves don't feel like they're getting a good return on their investment, then it's time to part ways and move on. And I think the question with a guy like Ronald Acuna, guys, is because his market value is still going to be extremely high. I would rather have 2 good players. When I say good, too, I'm talking like starters, but two good players, whether that's two hitters, that's two pitchers, that's one of each, that are consistent, that are healthy, that can help the baseball team, rather than have one guy who, when he's healthy, he's the best player in the game. But can we depend on him to be that guy year after year after year? I just don't know if you can anymore. And that's unfortunate. And I hate to say that, but you know, I, I think too, guys, you've got this core, this nucleus of guys together right now. And I mean, it would be such a travesty if we look back in like 5, 6 years and they haven't won another title with it, like with this core group of dudes. So, I'm not saying that, you're in a rush necessarily, but I think you have to act now. So, I mean, if it would suck if they made the move, but I would understand it from the business aspect. And I think if the Braves want to make a push to the World Series this year, maybe even next, I mean, I think they're probably going to have to make moves. So, yeah, guys, I definitely would go get a pitcher. I'd go get a pitcher, 110%. In the outfield, you've got Duvey back in there, Duvall. You got Michael Harris. You've got, what is it, Kellenick, the guy from the Mariners.
Who's
Yeah,
been playing really well this year for
yeah, really
how he
well.
did
So,
in
I mean,
Seattle.
there is something to be said, guys, about the fact that, again, you won the World Series without Ronald Acuna. And again, he's a great player, but he's just one player. And so I think for the Braves and the position they're in right now, I don't know that they would even entertain making a move at the All-Star break with him. But if they were, I would probably go pitching, really, truly. Like if you want to go one fielder, one pitcher, I think you have to get a pitcher, though. With Strider's injury, Fried starting to come along. Chris Sale, I think it's kind of 50-50 on what you're going to get out of him. Charlie Morton's been struggling. I think you go get a pitcher. I think you need to go get a top line arm, and I think you can get that for Acuna. So, but it's
They
a tough
can
question, man, because it's so weird to think about Ronald Acuna not in that Braves uniform.
they
We
can
were
definitely take
actually,
advantage of the Tigers and get Scooble for
I was about to
nothing because
say,
it's
we were
an awful
talking
organization.
before this about how can the Braves get Scooble. Because I play fantasy baseball. I've talked about it a
Yeah,
lot on the show.
yeah.
I each of the so last year and the year before, I managed to pick up Scooble off the waiver wire. And last year, I am 99% sure he's the reason I won the league.
I mean, again, whoever it is, man, I just, especially with losing Strider, I think you have to go get a big time arm. I just do. And again, I'm happy to see uh, Fried really get into gear and start pitching well again. And I love their young pitchers. Like, again, guys, we watched Hurston Waldrop at Florida last year. He's electric. I mean, he's going to be. I think that was one of the more underrated draft picks of last year's draft class. Like, I think the Braves did really well getting him. I know they're bringing up. Smith Shawver's a young guy. They brought up just another one that his name escapes me, but they just brought him up like yesterday. But I think they need to go get a frontline guy if they're going to make a run this year. I think no matter what they do with Ronald Acuna, by the way, I think you have to go get a frontline ace.
The guy they started
Sure.
today went 5 scoreless and then gave up 3.
Okay.
I can't
Yeah.
pronounce. His name fills up the entire back of his jersey. I can't pronounce it.
Yeah, They just called
Yeah.
him up.
I mean, it's been a very interesting start to the year for the Braves, but I always tell my buddy, man, because he's a super diehard Braves guy. When I go to Braves games, he's typically the guy I go with. And I just remind him, man, like, dude, it's a long season. I mean, I remember back in 2021, people were ready to fire Snitker at the All-Star break. Like, that was
Oh
like
yeah,
on social media. That
Yeah.
was saw fire Brian Snitker. He sucks. He's a bum. You just never know, man. And I mean, I kind of blame him too because he's been telling me he's like, man, I'd just so much rather the Braves, win the wild card, not win the division, and kind of catch fire in the playoffs. Like, well, I mean, they're doing exactly what you said. I mean, they're kind of going to be they're not going to be a 97 or 98 win team, 100 win team. They're going to win about 87 games. They're going to, Phillies are probably going to win the East, which I know we hate, but
Yeah.
the Phillies have been the wild card and they beat your ass the last couple of years. So I mean, maybe roles reversed would do some good. I don't
the
know. I know
Phillies
that
have also only played 3 games against teams with an over 500 record, and all 3 of those were against the Braves.
only 3 games.
Yes.
That's insane.
I,
At this point in the season,
well, I think this week they had a series against if the Giants are over 500, this will only be their
Still,
second.
still to get to this point and that be the
Yeah.
case.
Well, and
Wild.
they were
You're
one
like
and two
50
against the
games in, right?
Braves in opening weekend.
Yeah, we're
So-
literally like a third of the way through the season.
Yeah.
Wow.
So all these people that are talking about how good the Phillies are, they haven't played really any good teams.
They ain't play nobody.
It's a long season, man. But again, I would say look back at 2021. Why did the Braves win it all? What they did at the All-Star break and the trade deadline. When they got
Jorge Soler is available.
I'm sure we can get Jock Peterson too. Let's go.
Oh, let's get the band back together.
Yeah.
Why not? Why not? What's Will Smith up to these days?
Right.
Is there's another pitcher. I can't remember his name. I was just about to bring him up. Oh.
Where's Luke Jackson at these days?
Oh, fuck that.
What's Luke Jackson up to?
The most
Charlie
hated
Morton
player
has
ever.
another leg.
Who does?
Charlie Morton has a second leg. We'll break that one. It'll be fine.
There you go. There you go.
All right. We appreciate you coming on. Is there anything you want to plug before you get out of here?
Yeah, guys. First thing, man, I really do appreciate you having me on. I want to say too, John and Michael, I really appreciate the love, man. I know we tag you guys in a lot of stuff. We collab in a lot of stuff, and you guys have helped us out immensely connecting with the Georgia fan base and being able to share our content. I can't say thank you enough for that, man. It's SEC Unfiltered. We're kind of the new guys on the block, if you will, and so it's been really, really great, man. Interact with all the fan bases, and that includes Georgia fans, man. We've heard a lot from. We've heard them dogs barking a lot. It's been a lot of fun. It's certainly going to be a lot of fun to talk Georgia baseball, and then of course continue to talk Georgia football going in the season. But yeah, we're at SEC Unfiltered all across social media: X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We're on YouTube. We're podcast at SEC Unfiltered, and of course check out our website secunfiltered.com. So we'll be we'll be covering the college baseball postseason, specifically all these SEC teams. Very intensely, and of course, we continue to break down everything else. The latest storylines in the SEC, of course, previewing football because that never stops, guys. Right? We're constantly previewing football in some capacity. But guys, I can't say thank you enough, and to all those listening, appreciate you guys tuning in. And again, check out SEC Unfiltered, just wherever you get your content.
Thank you once again for coming on and talking to us. Thank you for tagging us and all your Georgia stuff. We also appreciate that quite a bit, getting us out to new audiences, and it's always great having on talking to you.
Yeah, John, Michael, appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
You too.
I too appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thanks again to Chris Phillips for coming on and talking to us. He really is one of our favorite guests to have on. Just the depth of knowledge he has about pretty much every question you ask him is it's pretty insane. I would need about 4 of my brains to hold that much information. So I love being able to hear from him. Mike, do you have anything you want to talk about before we get out of here?
No, you know what? I'm gonna plug a different podcast real quick, but Cover 3, Bud Elliott did a whole preview. Like he got to go play the new EA Sports college football game. He cannot speak highly enough about it. So that I know that comes out like mid-June or whatever, but I'm looking forward to that. Just all the stuff that he talked about. I'm excited about. But I mean, as far as as baseball and everything like that, I feel a lot better about this team after we're talking to Chris. So
right, and normally we talk to people and don't feel near as good. So
right.
Love that. But all right, guys, that is going to do it for this episode of the Nothing Finder podcast. As always, follow us on social media. It's on Instagram. It's at nothing.finder.pod. Twitter is at finderpod. Facebook and YouTube, just search us there. TikTok at Nothing Finer Podcast. And always remember, guys, there's nothing finer in the land
Than a drunk, obnoxious Georgia fan.